the back of Ruth the Realtor's car, it's the Stacking Deed Show. I'm Ruth the Realtor's part-time mechanic neighbor Doug, broadcasting live from the spacious recording studio in the trunk of her 88 Lincoln Town Car. On today's show, is Airbnb really a path to financial freedom, or is it more work than it's worth? Our guests, Mark and Kirsten Cricky, share the ins and outs of building a successful Airbnb business. In our headlines, it's final. In a landmark settlement, the National Association of Realtors agreed to change its rules on broker commissions. This means big changes for both buyers and sellers. We'll break down what this means for you and whether it might be the perfect time to jump into the market. Plus, we'll answer a call to Ruth's Rotary, and of course, I'll pop in later with my property pop quiz. And now, here are two cool cats in the real estate jungle. Oh, come on, really? It's Crystal Hammond and Joe Saul Seahigh.
Cool. Sitting right here, dude.
Cool. Yeah, Tiger King and Queen. Tiger, you can get it? I'm a Leo, lion, tiger, and bears, Chicago Bears. There we go. Welcome, everybody.
Dub Bears. Happy week. Super happy that everybody's back with us. How are you, Crystal?
Great. Yes, I'm mad we said the Bears because they pissed me off with the whole Justin Fields trade.
Fields.
Congrats, Pittsburgh. Congrats.
They got Russell Wilson, too.
You act like you already know that Caleb Williams is going to be a flop and a problem in the clubhouse.
But I feel like they disrespected a beautiful record-setting quarterback. Like, unless, like, maybe he was a tyrant in the locker room and they just didn't want to work hard for him. That's the only thing I could think of.
Look at how angry Crystal is. Like, she's seriously upset. You see her mouth, like, just tighten. And man.
Yeah,
we need to revisit this topic in maybe November or December and see how much of a crush she has on Caleb Williams at that point.
No. Super Bowl.
I'm just learning Don't Mess with the Hammond. That's what I'm learning. Watch out, Chicago.
But welcome, listeners. I love your thoughts also.
We got thoughts and prayers, apparently. We got a great show today. We're talking to some people from Canada today.
Canada A. You're supposed to say Canada A.
By the way, when you said that, every Canadian listener just rolled their eyes. Really?
Yeah,
that's all you
they
got?
Don't say that. I know.
That's all you got. Yes. We got a great headline first, though, so let's get started.
Hello, chaps. And now our Stacking Deeds headlines. Cheerio and pip pip.
Our headline comes to us from Market Insider. Well, it's official, Crystal. We talked to Dave Liniger about it last week, about the ruling, and here it is. Real estate stocks plunge as the National Association of Realtors agrees to landmark settlement that rewrites rules on commissions. This piece reads, the National Association of Realtors announced a $418 million settlement to end antitrust lawsuits. They agreed to a new set of rules which will reset long-held standards on commissions. Real estate stocks, including Zillow and Redfin, fell when this announcement happened. In fact, just all these stocks went to the floor. A lot of people thinking that this is going to make it obviously harder for these companies to make money. But I don't know, Crystal, as we get a little further away from this, I don't think so. I don't think much is actually going to change.
Yeah, I think it's just going to change like how you negotiate your commission and your relationship with your realtor. I think it's going to make those relationships a lot stronger because you're going to interview more realtors. It goes back to, all right, so now before, I think mostly the realtors were interviewing the clients just to make sure the clients aren't wasting their time. But now that it's typically or basically coming out of the buyers' pockets, the buyers are going to not waste realtors' time, and they're going to start interviewing more realtors to make sure that they're going to get the best value for this commission now that they're on the hook for paying it.
Yeah, talking to different realtors, and the more that I read, the more it just looks like what's going to happen is, let's be clear here. Buyers don't come to the table with more money than the cost of the house.
Right.
They don't. And if they do, the seller's going to worry that they walk, right? That they're just going to go away. So the negotiation's going to go like this. Crystal, you're the seller, I'm the buyer. I'm like, hey, I'll buy your house if you'll pick up the commission cost. And you say, done.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it is funny. I used to make a joke that everybody hops on the seller's back to pay all the fees and commissions and everything because, they're about to get this big lump sum. So they're in the best position to pay everybody. But that also doesn't discount the power of the real estate attorney because they do a lot of work. My most recent closing, just because I knew the buyers and I was already living here, we didn't have to deal with realtors and the lawyer did all the work. And man, I tell you, that's a lot of work that the lawyers have to do.
Oh, it's just a ton. It seems that the more things change, the more things stay the same. Now, in theory, buyers could bring their own money, could bring their own
commission.
Yeah, bring their own commission to the table. I just don't know how much that's actually going to happen when you talk to people. And in fact, the thing that experienced realtors have been telling me, and I've been sitting here trying to look it up, is that this has always been a thing, that buyers have always been able to negotiate their commissions.
Right. That is a huge tool also, just because that's usually the closing costs. If the buyer is stuck paying closing costs, which normally, again, since the seller's about to get this big chunk, everybody lumps onto the leeches, parasites onto the seller to collect as much fees as possible because, they're rolling in the money. But the commission is one of the negotiable things because then if you're the buyer stuck, this is what I was trying to say in the beginning, paying the closing costs, that's just going to increase your mortgage amount. So that's where that money would come from for you. 9 times out of 10, that's going to just make a bigger mortgage for you or what you have to come up with at the closing table.
Quick question for you. Do you guys think this is going to sort of break the market open a little bit? Things are pretty tight right now. Some of the speculation is that this is going to put more houses on the market and or get more buyers to show up because they feel like this improves the negativity from the mortgage side of things and the increased rates. Do you think this is going to have any impact on overall product flow inventory?
No.
Yeah, I'm with Crystal.
Because people don't buy or sell based on the commission. They're looking for, either the home or the cash flow. So when the math says yes, that's what you're doing. Or, you have to move or get a new job, have to relocate. Those are the reasons. The commission is the least of the worries. But then that also helps them to maybe they'll just negotiate even harder. Because I wish I would have negotiated on this place and saying, hey, can we lower the price since you don't have to pay a 6% realtor fee? That was something that I negotiated with when I was buying my new construction home years ago. I was like, can we come down on the price since I don't have a realtor? And a lot of times they will say yes.
Well, that makes sense because instead of them taking both sides of the deal, the buyer side and the seller side, they came down and gave you a lower rate. Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm with Crystal. The further we get away from this, and we're only a couple weeks off it, the less I see things changing, which is a surprise because right as soon as this settlement was announced, you had Anywhere Real Estate down 70%. These are stocks in these companies. Zillow down 13.1, Compass down 12.4, Redfin down 5.9. Like, would have been a great time to go in and scoop up those stocks.
Well, and it's interesting too, because like Redfin isn't as down as the actual, like the places that are known for brokerages.
Good
too.
point. Yeah. Redfin down less because it's already a discount model. That is headline number one. Guys, we have a very special show today because we have two headlines.
Boom.
But wait, there's more. This one comes to us from the Wall Street Journal. We saw this. It's hard to beat that 7% mortgage rate. These charts show why. This is written by Ben Eisen. Ben's talking about the fact that, you know what, Crystal, 7% is probably a number-ish that's here to stay. I remember before interest rates went really low, it felt like interest rates were around 7% forever before that. So this idea of us kind of hanging on to a 7%-ish rate is probably a thing that we should get used to. And because of that, we can talk about some ways to drive down that interest rate. And one of the ways they talk about is to buy down the rate.
Yeah, that's a huge one. That's the most common thing. I would say you just pay the points up front and you get to claim that on your taxes also, those points that you pay up front. So that's also a bonus in that first year because then you get that tax deduction and then you get the benefit of a lower rate for the rest of the mortgage until you refinance, when the rates, if they come back down.
The point paying, make sure you're eligible for itemized deductions
That too. Yeah.
to do it. But usually points are so expensive when you're driving down the rate that might put you over the top. So talk to your tax professional about that one. So I think, Crystal, you pay the points if you think that you're not going to refinance again. If you think that
5
you're going to
years,
try to,
right?
if you're going to lock in a rate and you want this to be a long-term rate, that's when you pay points.
And what does pay points mean? We want people to be in the know, be like, oh yeah, I'm going to pay my points to get my interest rate down.
Yeah, it's funny because you're right. 60% of people did this, the piece says, up from
Yep.
31% in 2021. So a typical borrower with a $500,000 mortgage might pay $5,000, and that right now would lower the rate 0.25%. It would bring a 7% mortgage down to 6.75. And in fact, this piece says paying those costs. So you pay a bunch of money now to buy a lower interest rate later from the mortgage company. If you give them money up front, they will then give you a discounted rate. The problem is they're saying that in this current environment, you got to pay a lot of money for not much help. There's a second thing you can do, though, which is an adjustable rate mortgage. Before you get to that, you generally pay points when you also think that the interest rate's not going to go lower. If you think interest rates are going to go lower, then you definitely don't want to pay points. But even today, it's tough. Adjustable rate mortgages is the next place to go, Crystal.
And I still have an adjustable rate mortgage on my first home that I bought, my first house hack, the duplex in Chicago, just because interest rates were where they are now. It's 7.5%. And so that was my option to get into the place. It was an amazing deal. I would do it all over again. If I find a good deal in this 7% streets, I'm going to get it all in because it's worth it. To me, it was worth it. And I'm not going to blame redlining, but I am blaming redlining. I have not been able to refinance in that zip code, but I'm still paying a 7.5% on that, and it's an ARM, and it is what it is. Like, hey, it's the math still worked out, even with an adjustable rate, and it was slightly lower than the rates were at the time that I actually bought too. So that helped me.
So when does your rate change?
Yeah, about once a year, my payment changes.
And that's because the interest rate fluctuates. You're at a point now, though, well, hopefully you'll be able to refinance, because if you're going to hold on to it, being able to get a 30-year fixed at that rate would be fantastic.
Yeah, huge. That is true.
Or at a lower rate than that. You do an adjustable rate mortgage when you're not sure what interest rates are going to do, or if you think that they will go down, or there's a chance that they could go down. We look at a 30-year fixed rate right now, just below 7%. As of March 10th, the rate was 6.71, according to the Wall Street Journal. If you did a 5/1 ARM right now, you would get a 6.539. And a 5/1 ARM, by the way, keeps the rate the same for 5 years, and then it can adjust a maximum of 1%. That's what 5/1 means on that ARM. So you're locking in a rate for the next 5 years. ARMs actually look pretty
Attractive.
decent. Yeah, you buy a little bit lower rate, but the possibility of, what some people did when I was a financial planner, I saw
No.
people that would consistently, well played, would consistently just do 5/1 ARMs.
Yeah.
5 years later, they just do another
Right.
one. Let's do another.
Yeah, I remember when we first got into our first house, that was the strategy. We didn't need to eventually, but you just get to a point where, like, you know what, now's when we're going to lock it in. So if you get to the 4.5-year mark and you realize I can do better, and I'm not going to wait for it to lock in at a point higher, I can refinance right now. You just keep leapfrogging that 5/1 ARM.
Cool.
Another approach that I like is, I really like when you go into refinance and you're not sure where interest rates are, if you can do a no point, no cost mortgage at a rate that's lower than what you have now. No point, no cost is different than, and mortgage people will try to conflate these terms, but it's different than cost rolled in. They will look you in the eye and they'll go, yup, this is no cost. And you have to specify. You have to say, I'm not talking about cost rolled into the loan. I'm not talking about coming with a check. I'm talking about, I want the line item to be zero on the cost line. Now, they will do that. There are tons of companies that do it, but what does that do to your rate? They jack up the rate.
Okay.
But if I can do a no point, no cost loan in a period like now where rates could still go lower, well, then heck, why wouldn't I refinance no point, no cost? And that leaves me free to do it again 6 months from now. I could do it as soon as I want. I don't have to play this. I got to wait 2 years so that whatever points I paid or costs that I paid make it worth it to do it again. It's worth it immediately if I can get away with no point, no cost. So we would actually go sometimes, Crystal, the opposite way of buying the rate down or a 5-1 arm. If I could get a lower rate, but things still could be better.
That's another case of doing the math. And this is also something in your briefcase that you can pull out, as far as negotiating with the mortgage broker and just ask, all they're going to say is yes or no. We do offer or we don't offer. And that's a great way to get the numbers to where you need them to be. It's like, well, here's an option that I've heard about.
There's a piece in here that talks about shopping around, and that shopping around, comparing rates from different lenders can pay. Here's the thing. Everybody's shopping out of the same well. The interest rate is the same for everyone. So I think after you go 3, 4, 5 different lenders, I think you can probably stop because there's not that much going on. I'll tell you what you want to worry about, though. One mortgage broker told me that these rates that you see online, the teaser rate when you put in mortgages, he calls them, quote, everybody's best lie. These are everybody's best lie, because those are either, Crystal, they're either paying points and they will bury that. Oh yeah, you're going to pay $5,000 to get that rate that we put on the front page. Won't tell you that anywhere else until you get past that front page rate. Or it'll be an adjustable rate. It'll be somehow discounted. There'll be some rules attached to it. So you got to really watch out and not fall for the teaser rate. And frankly, for me, if a company's going to run that rate where there's huge fees attached, it drives me away from them.
Definitely. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, don't fall for the shiny object syndrome, because that is what they do. Or, read the fine print. Yeah, this is assuming that, seller carries half the mortgage with you, and it's like, okay, these aren't realistic terms that I would actually qualify for. And also I've noticed this. I'm glad that, the places like Redfin have stopped doing this, but they would advertise the mortgage payment, the monthly amount without the taxes and insurance. Pity. The principal, insurance, and taxes and interest. And that payment would sometimes is $300-$400 more than just the mortgage alone without interest, taxes, and insurance. And these are the realistic numbers that they will you in with that shiny low price, just like we talked about Airbnbs. Or even hotels, when they show you the price without all the fees. You need to make sure you need to see all the fees before you just click onto these teaser rates and teaser deals. Just read that fine print before you fill out the credit application and all that other stuff, because then you get a ding and you just wasted a lot of your time.
I always would request the fees ahead of time, would request the paperwork ahead of time. I would annoy mortgage people when I would do that, but we would always do that. They're like, what? Mortgage people are notorious about not being ready until I think the moment of the closing, like the moment of the closing.
That is true. You don't get the HUD till that day before you go to close. And you're like, I need to know, if I'm getting a check or if I have to write a check.
It is so frustrating. Coming up next, Kirsten and Mark Cricky live in an area that they thought would not be attractive for short-term rentals. Maybe you live in a spot where you think, I don't know if short-term rentals really apply to me out here in Texarkana or wherever you might be. They got a big surprise, and now they are short-term rental landlords. We're going to talk to them about their first property, their second, and what they decided to do after that. It's pretty exciting. They have a new book out on the topic. But before that, Doug, you've got a pop quiz for everybody. Don't worry, everybody. This won't be graded. However, I think it's a good one.
But it will be great, Joe. Hey there, Dieters. I'm Ruth's wrench-wielding repair guru, neighbor Doug, with the Crickies joining us today to talk about how they switched their rental property strategy. It really makes you realize that investing is all relative. In fact, on this date in history in 1921, speaking of relative, Albert Einstein gave his first talk on his...
See what he did there?
That's how the pros do it.
Ninja.
Albert Einstein gave his first talk on his theory of relativity in New York City. His theory is based on the fact that, I'm pretty sure I've got this right, relatives suck. He was teaching at the Berlin Academy of Sciences at the time, but during his trip to New York City, he realized how at ease and peaceful he was while he was traveling far, far away from his family. In fact, time seemed to speed up. However, when he was with those nagging relatives, time appeared as an agonizing, interminable vastness that slowed to a halt and could not be escaped. I mean, we've all been there, am I right? Later, in 1933, he was back in the U.S., presumably happy as a fly on poop, when he decided to put an ocean between himself and his extended family. I mean, look how happy that guy ended up. So here's today's property pop quiz. What East Coast Ivy League college town captured Albert's heart and put that goofy smile on his face? Where was Albert Einstein's U.S. residence? I'll be back right after I think of an excuse why I can't visit my brother for Thanksgiving this year.
Great news, Dieters. We've been able to grab a deal just for you through our partner Hemlane. How about 20% off this invaluable tool? You heard us talk about how much we love it. Now you can get 12 months for 20% off, but you got to act like right now, Crystal.
Yeah, act fast, because one benefit you can give yourself is better property management. You will sleep sound with better property management. And we've mentioned a ton of property management softwares that are out there, but let's give people 3 reasons why Hemlane is different, Joe.
First, software alone doesn't really solve your problem, and that's why Hemlane's property management provides 24/7 repair coordination. That's right. You can either use your own service professionals and plug them into Hemlane, or you can tap into their licensed network. By the way, notice how I said licensed network?
Yes. Hemlane definitely knows who you should go to for help. But second, many of you are investing out of state, present company included. So
And my son, yeah.
Which we still need to have on the show. You keep promising us this. So Hemlane connects you with licensed leasing agents and other tenant placement services to help you find and place a tenant.
And third already, Hemlane's ranked number 1 by Gartner with a 4.8 star ranking out of 5 in their reviews. When I'm looking for food, if it's 4.5 and under, Crystal, I'm not going near that place.
Same. So you can manage your rental properties with 100% transparency and control. Those are 2 very important things without the administrative work through Hemlane. They offer everything from advertising your rental to over 30 rental websites to automatic rent collection. And they collect late fees. That way you don't have to listen to excuses. You just automatically collect those late fees.
So here's the deal, Dieters. We've been able to grab just for you a deal with our partner Hemlane, and this goes away at the end of March, which means you've less than a week to get this done. How about 20% off? You know how much we've talked about how we love it. You get 20% off the next 12 months, but you got to act fast. Talk about over leverage. You can leverage these great tools for less money. Use code BLOOM, the number 24SD, BLOOM 24SD at checkout. That's Bloom 24SD, and you get 20% off your next 12 months of Hemlane. 2 ways you can do this. You can go to Stacking Benjamins, our sister show, stackingbenjamins.com/Hemlane, HEMLANE, or Crystal, it's at the top of our Stacking Deeds site.
Yep. There's a menu right up top.
stackingdeeds.net, and you'll see Hemlane at the top. Just click that, then use code BLOOM24SD at checkout for Hemlane. Goes away the last day of March, so make sure you do that this week, Dieters.
Hey there, Dieters. I'm relative evader and scientific wonderkind, Ruth's mechanic neighbor Doug. On this date in 1921, Albert Einstein first spoke about his general theory of relativity in the U.S. Of course, he had been speaking about his theory of special relativity for 15 years by that point. I mean, we all have that one special relative that's a royal pain in the ass, right? But like me, it took him a few years to realize that in general, all relatives suck. When he finally did the ultimate Irish goodbye in 1933 and checked out of Germany, might have had something to do with that dude with the funny mustache, he ultimately landed in the U.S., and that was today's Property Pop Quiz. What college did Albert decide was the best party school? The best science department to lend his considerable talents to. I love thinking it was like one of those draft days where the kids decide I'm going to take my talents to Alabama. Anyway, it was none other than Ivy League powerhouse Princeton. And now, let's pull over and have a chat with the Crickies. I bet they have some ideas how to escape your relatives using investment properties.
And we're super happy they're here. Mark and Kirsten are here. How are you guys?
Hey.
Doing well.
Yeah, doing well. Thank you.
Now, you start off this project by saying that midterm rentals is a sweet spot that help you achieve a happy work-home balance. And I don't want to talk midterm rentals yet. We'll get there. But I want to talk about this concept of work-home balance because most of our deeders don't know what the hell you're talking about. Tell us how you were able to find that.
We're still finding it.
We're working on it.
Yeah. I used to work as a registered nurse. Yeah, I think I quit that when we had our third. We have 4 now. Just trying to shift work with 3 kids was impossible. So we pretty quickly decided that that was not going to work for our family. And then we had rented out our basement. That did help with the income. And then we had baby number 4 and we're like, well, actually, we can't rent out our basement anymore. We need all the space we can get. But what can we do to still have a little extra income coming in? We had very successfully rented our basement. Then we bought another, like a property, Airbnb that. And then Mark's like, well, we've been doing this for a while. People are coming to us, like asking us questions. We're the experts now. Maybe we should do this for other people. And I thought he was crazy. And that we started that business when I was 9 months pregnant. Yeah, it was always good timing. Yeah, Airbnb for other people. Right in the middle of COVID too. And right before COVID had started, we had 3 listings at that time that we were doing on Airbnb, and I was like overwhelmed. It was a lot of work. And Mark's like, well, we sometimes get these longer guests. Like, that's pretty nice. You still get good income, but it's not as much work. Maybe we should try attracting those kind of guests. And that's kind of how the midterm concept came about.
It's funny, but I think, Kirsten, aren't you misquoting Mark? I believe from your book that Mark always starts with, I had an idea.
It's true.
You do it.
He does do that.
Figure out the details.
Yeah, I have an idea. We should do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
I feel like Mark has an idea and chaos ensues.
Yeah, that's accurate.
What's great about that, though, guys, is that a lot of people have ideas, as you know. The fact that you have turned those ideas into reality. I can't tell you how many times people are like, oh, I'm thinking about getting into real estate. I'm thinking about writing a book. Well, you've done both of those, and you have 4 kids, and you've done all these other things. It's not really about what you know. But I want to ask you, Kirsten, let's start with you, because really you take us through this journey starting with your point of view. And so you're a nurse, you don't own a home, you're thinking about going to Europe and pursuing a master's in nursing. And by the way, why Europe for your master's?
I love Europe. Both my parents are from the Netherlands. I had gone there many times growing up. Really good memories, and spent a year there myself working. And then came back and then kind of left my heart there a little bit and was just trying to find a way back there.
Yeah. And well, you didn't make it back there because we'll call him European Dream Wrecker, Mark.
Yeah. It's not the first time I've heard that.
It's so funny, by the way. My aunt did this genealogy and she described our family as being Dutch, and I'm from West Michigan where everybody's Dutch. Yeah. So I called myself Dutch. And then my dad one day, he's like, we're not Dutch, we're German. And I'm like, no. Aunt Jean said that we're Dutch. Well, anyway, I do one of those ancestry DNA tests and I get the results back and it pinpoints kind of where the epicenter is of where you're from. And it's on the Dutch-German border, like exactly
really?
On the line. So, yeah. Turns out my dad's right and my Aunt Jean is.
Yeah, there you go.
Both right. But Mark, Kirsten really walks you through this idea of owning your first house. And it sounds like the concept of owning a house, like it was for me when I bought my first house, was this big thing in your head and you went through it and it wasn't so horrible.
Yeah. I was probably in my late 20s and kind of thinking, oh, I should probably buy a house. All my friends were, they were getting married, buying their first house. But just the idea of
everybody's doing
that, well, on my own. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I wouldn't even know what to start. And can I really afford it? And I kind of push it off. And then Mark comes along. So, you do the whole dating, get engaged. The next step is married with a house, right? So he's like, oh, let's get a house, but it has to have a basement apartment. That was his one criteria. So that's what we did. We bought a family home with a basement apartment, and that's where it all started.
I thought that was very cool because we did about a year ago, we did a thing around college basketball where we did like the 16 best ways to buy real estate, and house hacking, Mark, what you suggested was the number one everything. Why did you, Mark, suggest that? Like, what was your background that made you go, you know what, Kirsten, we need to have this basement?
So my background is also Dutch, and I know that's not what you meant, but we're notoriously cheapskates, right? Or you could say, frugal or thrifty, I guess. And I'm just thinking about, so we're going to have a mortgage, this new bill. What can we do to ameliorate that? And basement apartment is kind of the way to go. We're in Canada, and, all our houses here have basements. So not all of your listeners may have that, depending on where you are, right? If you're in a warmer climate, you won't have a basement. But here we do, and it's very common. It was relatively common at that time anyways, to have a basement apartment and rent it out just for extra cash. So, why not? If it covers half the mortgage or more, then that's just a bonus. And, now where we are, it's much, much more common to duplex homes, like with the cost of living and the cost of housing, especially around where we are. Pretty well every home is a duplex unless you're doing really well and you don't need the extra help.
And then was your first one, was it already turnkey? You didn't have to do any work on it? Or as you go along, you're looking for ones that need the work for sweat equity purposes?
So our first personal home, it had the apartment in it. And we just kind of fixed it up as we went. And the other half of the basement was unfinished. We finished that and made extra living space for us. And then sort of the next property that we looked at, investment property. And we weren't on a real estate journey or anything. Right? We're just like, well, this is kind of what you do. You get married, buy a house. And then for our second property, that was just like, I think this is a good idea. We're doing this Airbnb. This seems to work well. I know other people have done this, but we'd done no research on real estate. None of that, right? It was just like, it sounds like a good idea.
It's in our neighborhood. We know it. I could go there to clean it.
Scrape some money together and for down payment and bought it. And the basement was sort of finished, but it wasn't a duplex. Yeah. So we had to do some work to make that into a duplex, separate apartment, separate laundry, all that stuff. And then, of course, the mad rush, we got it rented out, but it wasn't ready yet. So
Mark's putting beds together. I'm doing laundry. And they're coming in an hour and this bed's not even made. It's not built.
No problem. It's not built, right?
No worries.
You got the IKEA pieces all over the floor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those IKEA furniture. Man.
But that was kind of the chaotic journey.
Oh, that's cool. Well, we should pivot to, so a lot of times the two reasons people don't do this, two of the barriers are, okay, where am I going to get the money for this next place? And then since you converted it, where am I going to find someone to do the work and the construction? So how did you even work through those two?
Yeah, I mean, the first one is a leap of faith, right? Yeah. Just like me convincing, had too many crazy ideas at that point. So I think Kirsten was still kind of open to it. Okay, buy another house. Sure. And,
nervous because
she was. And she's like, we're just going to long-term rent this.
Yeah.
In the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, right. We're going to Airbnb this. But I agreed to just do long-term rent. And so, and it was a leap of faith. And that's one of the things we kind of talk about. I had just started a new business for myself as well. So that was a bit of a leap of faith. And I think we were just kind of ready to take that plunge. And then, as far as the work goes, I did a lot of the work myself. My brother is a carpenter. He also came in and did some of the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to get the down payment for the second house, so we don't have like piles of money lying around, but we had built up equity in our primary home. So we refinanced and used what we got from that to buy that second home.
Yeah, except for we forgot about the deposit, right? Because, being complete
Yeah.
noobs, I think we had to put 10 grand down. It's a little bit more than your typical $2,000 earnest money deposit, right? So that was like, oh yeah, we need 10 grand in a couple days. So fortunately, we're able to kind of to scrabble that together. But yeah, it helps to do your homework beforehand. And that's one of the things that we're talking to people, try and give them a little bit of education so they don't have these. Learn from our mistakes.
Surprise.
Don't make your own
We had
mistakes.
a really
Yeah.
quick closing date too of 2 weeks, which I never want to do again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was a bit stressful.
You made a point, I think, that besides that initial down payment on the first house, all the money from your quote real estate empire has come from the proceeds of the business or from home equity.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we were fortunate to buy our primary home at a time where housing was still affordable. So I had put a little bit of money away, but it wasn't huge amounts. And then using what we had in this home is really how things got rolling.
I want to go down the Airbnb road and how you ended up there. So your first renter in the basement, it sounds like, was kind of a disaster. It was somebody that you knew, and that didn't work out, but you guys pressed on. And you got a second renter. I can just imagine, Kirsten, you've got this wild idea of Mark's to get a renter. You get a renter. The renter sucks. Like, where's your head then after renter number one?
I don't remember being too stressed out about it. I don't remember anyways. I was like, oh man, that happens sometimes.
Well, that's good.
We'll get another one. And yeah, Mark kind of took care of all that. He got another renter.
Nice.
He was an amazing renter.
Yeah.
But he bought his own house. So, he was that quality renter where, they're moving up in life.
Yeah.
So he bought his own house. And then we had gone on vacation, I think, to Washington, D.C. And we had stayed in a couple of Airbnbs with our growing family. And we're like, this is nicer than a hotel. We have a backyard. We have a bathtub we can put the kids in. We have a kitchen. We can make them dinner. This is pretty nice, this Airbnb. And we come home and Mark's, we're looking at this empty apartment now thinking, oh, we should start advertising for our new tenant. And Mark's like, I think we should Airbnb it. And I'm like, no, like who's coming to Hamilton? I don't know if you know where Hamilton is.
Yeah, I know exactly where. Yeah.
Okay.
Being a Detroit guy, I know exactly where Hamilton is. Sure.
I mean, is Hamilton a place that you think of like, oh yeah, we should go check it out. We should visit there sometime.
No,
I don't know.
but I think St. Catharines,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as it turns out, Hamilton is a great place.
We were very surprised.
For rentals because we're halfway between Toronto and Niagara Falls. And those, if you're visiting Ontario, like those are the places people go. And so it's ideal. It's kind of 45 minutes each way. And so again, we didn't do any research. I just knew like, oh yeah, Airbnb is kind of cool. And especially, where we are, we've got a pretty strict tenancy laws and rent control. So, if you have a bad tenant, you could be in for a bad time for a couple of years.
Damn.
Before you get them out, right? It wasn't that bad then, but it's gotten worse.
We were just lucky that the terrible tenant we had he did leave when we asked him to.
Yeah, exactly. So again, we kind of we thought, we'll try it. And there wasn't a lot of risk. We kind of furnished the place and
I furnished it with leftover furniture that we had, or somebody's like, oh, I have an old couch.
Nice.
So it wasn't very fancy, but as we went along, I would exchange pieces and upgrade the couch and
But yeah, I mean, the common thread, I guess, is being able to get a little bit uncomfortable and then being resilient when things don't work out. And especially we talk to a lot of younger couples now looking at getting into real estate, whether it's their first home or maybe another property. And that's always something we talk about. Like, you have to be willing to get uncomfortable, and anything in business is like that as well. And then also, be resilient. And so real estate is kind of good in that way, I think, in that you have usually a series of small disappointments. And hopefully you don't have a massive one right off the hop. But in those small problems that you deal with, you realize like, hey, okay, we had this problem and I dealt with it. And I kind of feel good because we figured this out. And now life didn't end. the world didn't end.
Right.
And then
Mm-hmm.
the more longer you're in real estate, you encounter more and different problems, but being willing to face those and, just building up that sort of capability in yourself, that's kind of mental toughness to realize that, like, yeah, I can deal with this. And we're kind of at the point now where, we haven't seen everything, but we manage a number of properties for other people.
Yeah.
And we're pretty confident that whatever happens, we can deal with it, right? Like if we can't personally deal with
I
it,
like it.
we'll find someone, because real estate isn't new. There's thousands and thousands of people, I don't know, millions of people who invest in real estate. There's systems out there. There's people out there that have the experience. You got to find them, right?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And what I love is that when you tried Airbnb, it turned out you were surprised that there were people coming that wanted to go to, halfway stop, like you said, to Toronto or Niagara Falls, or, like I mentioned, white wines. I'm a white wine kind of guy. Like it's right down the road. And you have what? You have a CFL football team. There's a university. There's hockey. I mean, I'm sure there's hockey tournaments all the time. Like there's all these opportunities for people that want to stay a day, a week, a few days, whatever. And you gave yourself the ability to be surprised. I was wondering though, when you say Airbnb, do you use that term generically? Do you use VRBO as well? You do.
We have used booking.com, and we are starting to do more direct bookings as well.
You have to research your area as well. Where we are, VRBO, you don't get any bookings. It's geared towards vacation rentals in, Hamilton area specifically. We do manage some other ones, but that area specifically, there's just no VRBO traffic, right? Because these aren't true vacation rentals. And then, booking.com, it's been hit and miss, we'll put it that way. So Airbnb is kind of the bread and butter where we are anyways.
Now, a lot of people have heard this term superhost, but you make the point in your book that you became superhost fairly quickly. First of all, what does that mean? How do you qualify? And then Kirsten, you make the point that was able to help you keep your rent on the high side because you were superhost. How do you get that?
There is some criteria. I can't remember what it is now, but it's your response time. So you need to respond to every inquiry that you get. Yeah, that just keeps you consistent. People can count on you. Like if you're trying to book something and you don't really know, like, Airbnb, I don't know this person, and you're not getting any response, you're just going to move on, right? You're not going to feel too confident. So yeah, being consistent with responses, cleanliness is huge. You don't have to have a beautiful place, but it has to be clean. So that's a big one.
Well, so there's your response for Superhost. It's response time, it's cancellation rate, and nights hosted or stays hosted. So
you can't cancel with Airbnb.
Oh, and your rating.
Yeah, that's right.
So your rating out of 5. So you need to be, is it 4.8 or 4.9?
Oh, I can't remember now. But for every stay, guests will have the opportunity to rate their experience at your place. So again, if a guest has a problem during their stay, don't ignore it. Address it right away. It is the service industry, right? It's not just a regular tenant. Even a regular tenant, you should deal with things that come up. But go out of your way. If there's a problem, fix the problem. Most of the time, if you fix the problem, people are like, that's all I wanted. I still had a great stay. I wasn't disappointed. Thank you so much. So...
yeah, and I mean, the labels are a little bit, they evolve. So Superhost was a big thing for a long time. It was hard to get. It's not that hard to get now, as long as you do a reasonable job and you have reasonable reviews. So Airbnb is constantly introducing new, they have a favorite property trophy now. And just recently, the latest update, they're going to do little badges. So if your property's in the top 25% worldwide, you'll get a little badge. And then if you're in the top 1% worldwide, you will get another badge. So they're trying to differentiate it because I think they kind of realize that, wow, something like 40% of our hosts are super hosts.
Yeah.
Because it's not exclusive. It's just you have to meet these criteria. So everybody could meet them.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're not.
People should meet them. I mean, they're pretty basic, I would think. If you're going to host people, there's no reason why you shouldn't be a super host.
That's like table stakes, you're saying. Like if you're going to do this, be good enough, be clean enough, be responsive enough to be decent at it.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know what's funny is to your point about the badges. I was just on Airbnb last week booking some time over American Memorial Day weekend for my family on Cape Cod. And I saw the badges, and they actually did affect my criteria. You know what I mean? Like, I was looking at those people with the badges first, and I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about it until you just brought it up, how important that was and what a differentiator that really is to the customer on the other end.
Yeah, because there's a certain amount of trust, right? If you're booking a place with your credit card and I don't know, maybe the listing doesn't exist, right?
You're
Maybe
right.
someone's trying to pull a fast one on you.
You made a whole list of things to check, like between your tenants that I like. That, and also the fact that you have, it sounded like this now complex laundry system going because there's never enough time to get the new sheets done, which I enjoyed that part. But this list was very comprehensive. And I wonder did you sit down and brainstorm this list at once, or was this kind of evolving over time? Because I noticed there's things on there like, did the previous tenant, did they leave anything? I mean, that was one that I haven't seen on the list before. Is any furniture broken?
Yeah, those are things that we all, like, you kind of learn as you go. I mean, when we started Airbnb our basement in our family home, I had no lists. I didn't have any, like, I don't even know if Airbnb was that big yet. You know, you could go on the internet and be like, what do I need to do to be a good Airbnb host? But you just kind of figure these things out. And then, especially when I started, and I probably did them automatically, like, oh, somebody's left his, oh, that's broken. Oh, I got to get that fixed. Oh, that sheet stained. Once I started getting other people involved, so I was growing our team, I was hiring cleaners, then I thought, okay, now I really do need to sit down because now I have to get these cleaners to do what I've been doing. So I need to spell it out for them, right? Because a regular housekeeper is just going to come in, they'll clean for an hour or two, and then they'll leave and like, well, if it's not perfectly clean, I'll get it next time. With Airbnb, there is no next time. The whole place has to be clean, usually within a certain time frame. If something's broken, it has to be dealt with immediately, right? If something needs being replaced, it has to be done before a check-in. So yeah, I had to sit down and then kind of like go through, like, oh yeah, this is what I do. Yeah, I have to check that. So I have to write it all down for people that we were hiring.
That's beautiful. I love how the systems just kind of, the systems come over time. Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you have to adopt the attitude of it's a hotel, really, right? And it's not, but that is sort of one of your sources of competition. So you should be at least as good as a hotel, right? And if Marriott, right, there's the Marriott Way, I think it's the book that's out there. If you're interested in hospitality, that's probably a good read. And they have systems, right? Every good business that grows to a scale has systems. And just because you're an Airbnb host with one listing doesn't mean you don't need systems. It will make your life so much easier. So if the hotels have systems, then maybe you could too. And we're not talking about a massive piece of software, right? It could just be a checklist on a whiteboard that you check off each time. And that's what we do through a little bit of software with our cleaners, is each property gets a checklist that's tailored to that property. Yeah, then it just makes it easier, right? You want to make it dummy proof, I guess.
Kind of.
Make it easy for anyone.
Yeah, just small things. Like we have Keurigs in most of them. Like the last guest leave the pot in there, right? Okay. So that's just on the list for the cleaner to be like, oh yeah, I could check the coffee maker for a minute.
Because I've been in Airbnbs and I open it up in the old Keurigs, and I know it's no big deal, right? And I know it's not like they took their finger and licked it and licked the inside, but it still has this little gross factor, that you don't get over.
So that's what I tell my cleaners. And I'm like, imagine that you're stepping into this place and you're the guest, you're staying here. Just put yourself in that mentality and have a look around and see what jumps out at you. When you check into a place, you know that other people have stayed there. You're obviously not the only one, but you want that feeling of this is my space. Nobody slept in this bed before me, right? Mm-hmm. You want that idea anyways. You don't want to find little hints of previous guests. So, yeah.
I am thinking of this joke that comedian Jim Gaffigan had, which was, he says, hey, anybody want my used mattress? Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, no, I don't want it. And he's like, hey, let's all go stay in a hotel. Oh, you're up for that?
Yeah, I remember that one.
There's a double standard going on there.
Yeah.
But to your point, if it's clean and it's neat, we can have this illusion that it's great. And I love your point, too, in your book, that you became an expert at finding the little chocolates and the little shampoos, the welcome kit, like all that stuff is so important. I want to transition though over to midterms. When did you go, this everyday stay thing is a grind and I'm going to find midterms? Because you wrote that really saved your bacon during COVID and you were able to keep people through COVID when, the short termers were wiped out.
Yeah, we didn't plan it. It kind of happened right before COVID that we had a family that needed a house, a 3-bedroom house. They were planning to move to Australia. They were a family of 4. They had sold their house, so they had all their stuff in storage. So they're like, we need a furnished house. There wasn't that many of those at that time. And they're like, well, we want to stay for at least 3 or 4 months. And I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing. I don't have to do laundry for 3 or 4 months. So we booked them. That's always my, I don't have to do laundry. So we booked them. And of course,
I love it that you're not thinking about the consistent rent. You're not thinking about the whatever you're thinking, less laundry.
Yeah. Mark's thinking about the rent. I'm thinking about the laundry. Oh. Of course, they didn't go anywhere because of COVID. So they ended up staying with us for 9 months. A rate that was kind of crazy. Like I don't know how they afforded that for 9 months, but yeah. And then we're like, okay, so that was right through COVID, and all our other listings would have cancellations left, right, and center. So we're like, okay, we're going to do more of the long term. And midterm, there was quite a bit of people that during COVID, for whatever reason, they couldn't travel. They were stuck in Hamilton, I guess, needed a place to stay. So yeah, that was really good.
Hey guys, how do you change it to a midterm? Do you just set your minimum stay at it's got to be more than a week? Or what do you do inside the system to change it to a midterm rental versus a 1-day, 2-day rental?
Yeah, so if you're doing Airbnb, we mostly will operate on hybrid scenarios where we'll accept, kind of any length of stay, unless it's in a jurisdiction that doesn't permit short-term stays. So Canada, we're seeing a lot more regulation, even in Hamilton where we are now. It's kind of principal residents only. But yeah, a lot of short-term rental hosts are afraid of the longer stays. Again, especially in our area, once you're over 30 days, now you're governed by what's called the landlord-tenant board. And it's like a regular rental. So people can stay and they can squat. And, you vet your guests so that you don't run into those problems. But a lot of people would not do that. So simply opening your calendar for longer on the Airbnb platform will open you up to those stays. And then when you do some of those stays and you do more and more, you build up a bit of not a reputation, but a history with Airbnb specifically of allowing these. And, nobody really knows what's going on in the Airbnb algorithm, but I strongly suspect that the more long stays you do, the more you will score higher when people are looking for a longer stay. So you'll show up first when people are looking for that long stay, as opposed to someone who only does short stays. There's a lot of other things that you can do to attract midterm stays, but they typically involve sort of direct marketing and building relationships in the area that you're in with companies, with insurance companies, that kind of thing. But yeah, on the Airbnb platform anyways, which is still, people have lots of other ideas. It's still sort of the biggest short-term rental marketing partner out there. So, we always advise people to get good at that. But yeah, just have the availability and take it.
It's so inspirational.
Yeah, we didn't come from a background of real estate investors. We had no idea what we're doing, and we just learned as we went.
Yeah, and one of the rewarding things for us is working with somebody, and we haven't always even done this on a formal basis, but just talking to people about it. And that's kind of where the idea for the book came, right? We talked to a lot of people, hey, guys, this is what we did. We're not rocket surgeons. If we did it, you could probably do it too, as long as you're willing to work hard and take a little bit of risk. And then seeing people who do that, and, some of them are our clients, and then everything works out and they do well. It's really rewarding for us to see that happen. So
I actually do have one more thing, which is just about getting into rental real estate at all. You have one discussion about one of your brothers that couldn't afford to buy their own house, but because they could be remote, they could buy a house, I think in Manitoba, which the prices were considerably less. And even though they couldn't afford to live in a house where they were, they could begin building up some equity and be a landlord. I thought that was a big aha that a lot of our people need to hear. Can you talk about your brother for a second?
Yeah, it's my younger brother. He moved to Ontario maybe a few years after I did. Met his wife. They got married. They had a baby. He worked with Mark. His name is also Mark, my brother. Mark and Mark.
She surrounds herself.
And he was also bald.
Yeah.
People would ask if we were brothers.
Yes,
You go on
we're
a job site,
twins.
like, I'm Mark. Oh, and this is Mark. Oh, are you brothers? Like,
No.
What?
Weird.
I don't follow. No.
Yeah, it's like
Unless
that.
my dad was, George Foreman.
It's like they showed Daryl and my other brother Daryl, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bob
So,
Martin.
they were living in a basement apartment in Hamilton. And even that basement apartment was at the top of their budget. It wasn't the nicest apartment. It had some mold issues. They had a new baby. They weren't really happy having their baby in this dampy basement. And they were like, maybe we could live in a main floor of a house. That was out of their price. Maybe we could find another basement apartment that was at least dry. Couldn't even afford that. They were getting pretty discouraged, like, we'll never be able to buy a house. And that is a real concern that a lot of young people have right now in Canada, that we're never going to be homeowners. So we had talked about it with them, like, if you try to buy something in Manitoba, it's way cheaper. You can manage it remotely, and at least you got your foot in the door. You're in the market and you have something, you've got some leverage. So they did that and still lived in their not so nice basement apartment in Hamilton for quite a while, but at least knowing, at least we have a house. We're not living in it right now, but we have something. It's building equity for us. So I've told other young people this idea, like, even if you're not buying in a different province, if you can buy something around here and then still live in your parents' basement, I don't know, rent out that whole house. That's maybe another way of doing it. Like, just kind of think outside the box.
Yeah, and a little bit of delayed gratification too, right? We're in a society with cheap and easy money. Well, it's not that cheap right now, but
Right.
we have this sort of short-term thinking mindset, not short-term rentals, but just short-term instant gratification, right? And not everybody does, but that's, if you're a young person, you're not going to get that big, beautiful house by the lake as your first home, right? So again, be a little bit resilient, be willing to make some sacrifices, and eventually you'll get there, hopefully. But it's worked out well for them. They actually ended up moving out there, but they had renovated the house a little bit. Then they sold it. They made, a good, tidy profit, and it had been rented out. And then they were able to relocate there into a bigger home with more room and home office
And more
space
babies.
and stuff, and another baby.
Well, you got to
Hopefully
fill
more.
the house. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, build the house and then fill it.
Yeah. So their plan is, so they're busy renovating this new house, and that is kind of their plan too, is to sell that one and then just keep,
But if
buying
they-
bigger.
Yeah, but if they hadn't made that step, they would still be renting somewhere. Yeah. I mean, nothing wrong with renting, but we're big proponents of owning. So if you like that, then you got to take that step somehow.
The book is You, Me, and Airbnb, The Savvy Couple's Guide to Turning Midterm Rentals into Big Time Profits. Available anywhere, I assume. Probably Amazon is our best bet.
Yeah.
Amazon's your best bet. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Barnes and Noble.
Thank you so much for mentoring our Dieters and getting into the real estate game. We super appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. And Mark did most of the writing.
Hey, if we could do it, you can too. So another inspiration for your Dieters out there, right? Have a journey, then write a book.
Big thanks to Mark and Kirsten. And it's funny, Crystal, living in an area like they do, they didn't think that because, Hamilton, not a tourist town,
Mm-hmm.
that would be a big deal. But with all the things around them, it truly is the same here in Texarkana. Like a lot of people don't think. I'm headed to Texarkana. By the way, the Solar-bration,
Not a word. I don't
the
know.
Solar-bration, they are. Paula Pant coming for the Solar-bration this year, which is awesome. But this is the way into Texas. So people headed to Dallas. I have a friend now who owns 3 Airbnbs. And when he bought the first one, he was like, I don't know if this is going to be a thing, but I'll try short-term rentals. And Devin bought his first one and it was booked solid.
Huh.
because everybody drives to the border.
Yeah.
They drive to the border, and then the next day they take off. So
Texarkana is the gas station equivalent of the one in the desert that says, last gas for 600 miles. They built their whole town on that. People get to the border, they're like, oh, crap, I can't drive another 19 hours.
I got 2.5 hours still to Dallas. Are you kidding me?
I'm still not convinced it's a real place. Like, the word is just so funny. Texarkana.
I've been there. Took a lot of therapy to help me realize it's a real place.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's great.
Brilliant.
So if your town, though, is a place that's on the way to play, I mean, Hamilton, right between, you've got Toronto on one side, to their point, you've got St. Catharines, you've got Niagara Falls, you got all these places around. I remember, Doug, when
Windsor, I've been through Hamilton a bunch.
Yeah, when we would drive to Doug's lake house, which makes it sound way more posh than that place.
It was sheltered. It was merely sheltered that was near water.
We were fairly certain the stairs to the upstairs were going to fall at any moment.
Oh, goodness.
When you're sitting on a toilet and you're leaning towards the lake, when you got to worry about your morning constabulation, you've got issues.
But that is a good point. Yeah.
Charming place.
Charming
But Hamilton's
place.
a great spot.
Okay. Well, that does make perfect sense too. You would think you need to be at the destination, but no, if you're in between a couple destinations, you give people so many options of, they can take a different adventure every day and they may stay longer, because they did talk about how they switched from short termers to longer termers. And that's worked very, very well for them. And that's a very
Well, that's
good
the other
thing
thing
to
there, Crystal, that I
realize.
like for this interview. Don't get locked in, right? Don't get locked in. Have a little bit of a playful attitude. Like, let's try this. Let's try this. Certainly,
Why not?
trying out Airbnb, VRBO, trying out, I just can't say Verbo still. I saw a commercial for it yesterday. They're like, you got a Verbo. I'm like, no, I didn't. I got a VRBO. I'm sorry. I just can't do the Verbo. Not good. But big thanks to them for coming on. Hey, we got a fun call to Ruth's Rotary. And actually, it wasn't even a call. We got an email from Mark saying, hey, I was wondering about this video. It seems to confirm some of the things that you guys have been saying on the show. And it's from a voice that you've heard before. And I'm like, really? So, of course, I hit play. And, well, this is what I heard.
I've owned over 2,000 pieces of real estate in my life. I've got several $100 million worth of real estate today. One thing I know for sure is if you tell me the renters are going to pay the payments for you, that tells me you've never managed rental property.
Okay, before we go on here.
Is that a country
That is
singer?
the Dave Ramsey. And does Dave Ramsey sound more and more like a get off my lawn, just out of touch old man?
Yes, Nabo. What is it called? The NIMBY, not in my backyard.
He could be wishing you Merry Christmas, and you'd cringe a little bit, and you'd be like waiting for the hit over the head.
He's always had that. He's always had that brusqueness, but this one is just.
Yes.
It's just. I'm gonna start from the front.
2,000 pieces of real estate in my life. I've got several $100 million worth of real estate today.
Why do you got to start off with the flex?
Right. I've got.
You know who I am.
Million.
I own so much real estate. You can't believe all the real estate I own. I own so much real estate.
Huge.
It is. I don't know. I just hear that and it makes me just go, come on, man. But anyway,
Right. Yeah.
there is a point here, believe it or not, but he just couldn't say it in a meaner way.
I've owned over 2,000 pieces of real estate in my life.
Good
I've
for
got
you.
several $100 million worth of real estate today.
Bam.
One thing I know for sure is if you tell me the renters are going to pay the payments for you, that tells me you've never managed rental property. That tells me you've never done it. That's 100%. You are a novice at best, an idiot at worst. And I mean, that's the truth. Because anybody who's ever had a renter or been a renter, and I have both, I've been a renter too, it knows that
Way back
sometimes
when I was
renters
poor.
don't pay. Sometimes
Right.
there's cancer.
When he was 2.
Sometimes there's car wrecks and job loss. Sometimes there's a pandemic. Sometimes ... It's, as if there's a perfect stream of every month the rent is going to come on time or early and you can pay your stupid little payment. And that's the most ridiculous assumption, which indicates a lack of experience or knowledge of how rental property really works.
I'll tell you what the perfect stream is him pissing all over real estate investment.
Yeah, well, I could see the headline in
Oh my
clickbait.
God.
Dave Ramsey tells you why you're an idiot because he
He does
says
that
that in the
daily.
thing.
Just daily. Just why would anybody call in? You know what, honey? We even had our head kicked in today. Let's call Dave Ramsey.
Like the Kitchen Wars guy, Gordon Ramsay. Is it a thing with the name where he puts the two bread sandwich? You an idiot sandwich?
Now, what are
It
you?
cracks me up.
Dave, though, Crystal, is not wrong here. He says it in the worst way possible,
It
but he's not right. I had no idea where he was going.
Me neither.
The rent needs to cover your mortgage payment. But to my dismay, I will agree with Mr. Ramsey, which is that it's got to be more than that. You know, you see so many people get in trouble with real estate because they're like, oh, my mortgage payment is $800. So I'm going to buy a house that is exactly that amount and it covers it exactly. And bam. What Dave's actually, I think, trying to say, if he were a kinder, gentler man, what Dave's trying to say is that mortgage.
Like you,
human.
Joe. Is that what you're
If he
fishing
had a
for
heart.
here?
If he had a heart.
Just give him what he wants, Crystal.
If Dave were more like me.
Oh, Joe. Wrap that hammer in 4 layers of velvet and tell me what it should sound like, please.
That number needs to also encompass your emergency fund and your capital improvements fund, not just what the rent is.
The rent. Well, and that goes back to what's one of the landlord's biggest fear is someone not being able to pay rent. And remember, we had Suni on for the calculation. She's like, she puts 10% vacancy in that calculation. And that helps with making sure you have a big enough cushion for when things happen. And then this also goes on the other side of the math, keep those extra contingencies in there and don't spend that money. You need to keep that account and not touch it the whole possibly life of the ownership, and make sure you have property managers are allegedly great at helping you screen tenants. My realtor is wonderful at that. You can hire a realtor to do that for you. And then your lease, remember, Joe, you talked about your person that happily paid the late fee every month.
One of our renters every month paid about a week late and just included the overdue money. I never had to harass her about the overdue money.
Oh.
She just would always pay. So I got used to the rent money coming on the 7th with $300 extra every single time. It actually was pretty sweet.
Nice.
I'm not going to lie. It was a good deal.
Nothing extra.
Why would you ever get out of that game?
Feel free to just keep paying 7 days late and send $300 more. Good stuff. Not a pain. Although at the end, I thought that a single teacher with a little tiny dog would be a very clean person. Turns out she wasn't. That house, when we had to clean it afterwards, was the grossest of any tenant that I had in that house.
Yikes.
It was pretty bad.
Yikes.
Also, by the way, Crystal, when you say that Suni said 10%, that only
10%.
represents just over a month. When you start off with the property, unless you're going to roll the dice, which again, I wouldn't do, you want to have 3 or 4 months rent in a safe spot, just sitting there to the side. So if you don't have a renter for a while, you can manage for a few months.
Because we want you to be prepared for the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you ever need to, take a tenant to court, for not paying rent, you can sleep at night knowing that you can at least cover the rent while you're going through that. Or, if they're late, you are covered and you are not, up at night, scared, sweaty. We want you to be prepared for.
And by the way, Dieters, if you
everything.
don't know this, you're a novice at best and a moron at worst.
Just
According to Dave Ramsey.
get out of
Just
the
a
game.
moron.
Give
What
up.
are you morons doing? You don't know what you're doing.
Hundreds of millions.
You know what?
Hundreds. He has
I've owned
hundreds of
trillions. And way back in the day, when I was poor like you, I was a renter too. But I wasn't a moron.
millions. Right.
Our headline in like 2 weeks is going to be Here's an article from MSNBC. Dave Ramsey single-handedly depresses the real estate investment market. And then he's going to be buying it all up.
With his work. Yeah. He's getting people out. Be like, your people aren't going to pay. So
It's
go
all
ahead
a
and sell
plot
to me.
coming out of Franklin, Tennessee. All a plot. All right. I think that's going to do it for today. Crystal, people want to get these show notes so they can find the Cricky's book, and they can also go get this link to this wonderful TikTok video and our headlines, all that goodness. How do they subscribe?
Yes, please head to stackingdeeds.net/show notes. You will get your show notes delivered to your inbox, handwritten by me. I throw little jokes in there sometimes, and I refer to myself in the third person sometimes. So it's a
handwritten.
funny
You
read.
put like little hearts over the eyes and some smiley faces in the margins. Okay.
Yes. Listen,
Isn't that, Doug, what royalty used to do? Refer to themselves in the third person. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. That's where the royal we phrase.
We know who the queen
on
this podcast is.
We dress for dinner.
There are emojis in the email subject line, so look for
super. That's my favorite.
The little microphone and the little house.
We're also going to be having some Stacking
That's
Benjamin,
roomy.
Stacking Deeds family meetups coming. And by the way, we're having them every month in Minneapolis. If you're in the Twin Cities, make sure that you join our Facebook group for the Twin Cities. So just put in Stacking Benjamin's Twin Cities and you'll be part of that Facebook group. You can find out where we're at every month for our monthly meetup group. But we're going to be going on the road. And I asked Crystal, maybe she'll come to Cleveland with me.
Maybe. Not sure
That
yet.
sounds like a hard no, doesn't it?
Cleveland
sounds like
rocks. Cleveland. Yeah, look, that's a deflection. Remember that song? Drew Carey.
Sounds like the old days when she would just look at me and ask your dad. Just, that's a no. That is
right.
A no.
Yeah. Well, don't forget too, if you will have something for us, voicemail. If you have a question, head to stackingdeeds.net/voicemail and we will play your voice on the show, or just hit the email button if you don't want to hear your
We'd love to hear your voice. And you know what? If you're not going to send us a voicemail, you are a novice at best and a moron at worst. Only the cool people send us voicemails. And we get Dave Ramsey mad at people for not doing it. All right. I think that's going to do it.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking around to the end, guys.
Doug, what's on our to-do list?
So, what should we do based on what we learned today? First, take some advice from the Crickies and get started. Don't think empire as much as just this one property in front of you. Second, mortgage covering your rental property costs? Maybe, but there's so much that could go wrong. It's all about setting up your fix-it fund. But the big lesson? You know that wacky photo of Einstein sticking his tongue out? Everybody thinks it's hilarious, but I stick my tongue out one time in front of some breastfeeding mom and they call security. So I guess, humor is relative too. Thanks to Kirsten and Mark Cricky for joining us today. You can find their book, You, Me, and Airbnb. Oh, that's clever. Kind of rhymes. Wherever books are sold, and also check out their podcasts, The Two Stewards Show at twostewards.ca. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingdeeds.net.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.